Every single time you tie your shoes, or catch a ball, or even just walk down the street, your body is performing this incredible symphony of movement. But who's the conductor? Is it the brain, sitting up there like some meticulous commander dictating every single note? Or is something else, something way more interesting going on? Okay, let's dive into this amazing puzzle of motor control.
I mean, really think about it. How does a quarterback throw that perfect spiral? Or a gymnast stick a landing without a single wobble? These things happen way too fast for us to consciously think about them. It almost feels like magic, right? So how on earth does the body pull off these unbelievable split-second feats? Well, to figure that out, we got to start with the classic explanation.
For the longest time, the theory that made the most sense was pretty simple. The brain is the all-powerful CEO of the body. It sits up in the corner office, it makes all the big decisions, and then it just sends out memos to the muscles, who are basically the workers on the factory floor.
This way of thinking is called top-down processing. The idea is that the brain sizes up a situation. It designs this super detailed blueprint for a movement, and then it sends a very precise set of instructions down the chain of command. The body's only job? Just follow the orders. No questions asked.
And this gives us a really logical, clean hierarchy. It all starts at the top, with strategy. The brain decides on a big picture goal, like, I need to score a goal. Then that gets broken down into tactics, the actual sequence. Okay, I'm gonna run, then I'm gonna kick. And finally, you have execution, where the brain shoots out the specific commands to the muscles to make it all happen. It's neat, it's tidy, but, and this is a big but, what happens when you think about just how many different ways we can move?
Just think about all the ways you can throw a ball. You can throw it overhand, underhand, fast, slow. You could be sitting down, you could be jumping. I mean, the number of possible movements is basically infinite. So could the brain really have a separate, pre-written computer program for every single one of them? That just seems impossible. This is what's known as the memory storage problem. And it's a massive wrench in the gears of this simple top-down idea.
So, to try and solve this puzzle, scientists came up with something called schema theory. And the idea here is really clever. The brain doesn't bother storing millions of different programs. Instead, it stores a general recipe or a schema for a whole category of actions. So, for example, it doesn't have a program for every single type of throw, but it has one master throwing recipe.
And the core of this whole thing is called the Generalized Motor Program, or GMP. You could think of it like a master template in a document. The GMP for throwing has the basic, fundamental sequence and timing of any throw. Then, depending on the situation, the brain just tweaks the parameters, like the speed, the force, or which arm you're using to create the exact throw it needs. It's a way, way more efficient system. Okay, but what if the brain isn't the only one calling the shots? What if the body itself actually has a pretty big say in how we move? This brings us to a really radical counterargument, one that basically flips that entire classic view on its head. Because if the brain has to pre-plan every little thing, how do we react to the unexpected? I mean, imagine you're walking along and you suddenly hit a patch of ice. There's no time to send a message up to the brain, wait for it to cook up a new plan, and send it back down. Your body just reacts instantly. How is that even possible?
And this is where something called dynamic systems theory, or DST, comes into play. DST says that movement isn't programmed from the top at all. Instead, it self-organizes. It just sort of emerges from this real-time dance between you, the world around you, and whatever it is you're trying to do.
A pioneer of this way of thinking, Nikolai Bernstein, had this perfect phrase for it: repetition without repetition. He pointed out that even when you try to do the exact same thing twice, like signing your name, it's never perfectly identical. And why is that? Because you, your muscles, your energy levels, the world, everything is in a constant state of change. So for him, real skill wasn't about perfectly repeating a program. It was about constantly solving the same movement puzzle in a slightly new way every single time. DST has some seriously cool core concepts. First up is self-organization. Think of how a flock of birds move together like a single entity, but there's no leader bird shouting orders. That's order just emerging on its own. Then you have constraints. These are just the rules of the game, things like gravity, how long your legs are, or the surface you're on. They shape what's possible. And within those rules, our body finds attractors. These are stable, efficient movement patterns it just kinda likes. Think of your natural walking speed. And a phase transition, that's when you suddenly flip from one pattern to another, like when you speed up your walk and it just naturally breaks into a jog. And finally, and this is so important, variability. All those little differences in your movements, they're not errors to be fixed. They're the secret sauce. They're what allow you to adapt and learn. So what we have here are two completely different stories about how we move. In one corner, you've got the brain as the master programmer, and in the other, you've got the body and the environment as a self-organizing team. It's a real showdown. So let's put them head to head. This table really lays out the fundamental conflict. For the classic information processing model, everything starts with a central plan from the brain, and feedback is just for fixing mistakes after they happen. But for DST, movement emerges from the bottom up, from all these different interactions, and feedback isn't for correction, it's part of the real-time creation of the movement itself. It's the difference between a top-down dictatorship and a bottom-up democracy. So that's the million-dollar question, right? Which one is it? Is our body an army just taking orders from a general, or is it more like a town hall meeting where everyone gets a vote and collaborates on the best solution? For a long time, this was a huge debate. But as it turns out, the real answer is so much cooler. Because the way we think about it now isn't about picking a side. It's about realizing that these two systems are actually working together in this incredibly sophisticated partnership. And honestly, the best analogy I've ever heard for this is a jazz band. Think about it. The band's leader, that's like the brain's high-level goal, they choose the song and set the key. That's your top-down control. But then the individual musicians, that's your body parts and the environment, they improvise together within that structure. They listen and respond to each other in real time. That's your bottom-up, self-organizing magic. Let's make this super concrete with a running back in American football. Okay, the play call is an outside zone. That's the high-level, top-down goal. In DST language, that's the constraint shaping the play. But then, he sees a defender break free. He has to instantly change his strategy and cut back inside. That decision, that's a phase transition, a sudden radical switch to a totally new movement pattern. And from there, his body just self-organizes the execution. His feet, his posture, his balance, they all adjust on the fly until the new movement finds a stable, efficient groove, a new attractor. You see, it's top-down guidance and bottom-up improvisation, working in perfect harmony. And one of the key biological pieces that makes this beautiful partnership work are things called central pattern generators, or CPGs. Now, these things are wild. They're basically little neural circuits, mostly in your spinal cord, that can produce rhythmic patterns, like walking or breathing, automatically. They don't even need input from the brain. They are the body's own internal rhythm section, just laying down a steady beat that the brain can then influence and guide without having to micromanage every single step. So, what is the brain's ultimate job in all this? Well, the most cutting-edge thinking right now is that the brain is basically a prediction machine. It's constantly making its best guess about what's going to happen next. And get this, action, movement, isn't just about getting from point A to point B. It's about acting on the world to make our predictions come true. We move to minimize surprise. If you predict your foot will land on solid ground, you move your body in a way that ensures that's exactly what you feel. It's incredible. Okay, so why does any of this theory stuff matter in the real world? It matters a ton, because understanding this integrated model gives us a completely new and much more powerful framework for coaching, for physical therapy, and for learning pretty much any new skill you can imagine. Let's go back to our running back. Let's say his cutback technique is a little risky and might get him injured. A traditional coach might just yell, "Fix your form." But with this new model, we can be so much smarter. At the highest level, we can change the intent, redefine success to include staying healthy, not just getting that extra yard. At the middle, strategic level, we can train better decision-making to avoid needing that risky move in the first place. And at the low execution level, we can use drills to strengthen his body and build a safer, more stable attractor for the cutback itself. You're intervening at every level of the system. So here's your new toolkit for thinking about movement. First, remember that it's always a partnership between your brain, your body, and the world. Second, variability isn't a bug, it's a feature. It's the raw material for learning. And third, the best way to learn or coach isn't just to correct an action, it's to shape the environment and the task to guide the body to find a better solution on its own. And that leaves us with a final, kind of mind-bending thought. The next time you're trying to learn a new skill, a golf swing, a dance move, whatever it is, ask yourself this question. Are you just trying to rigidly practice one specific movement? Or are you creating the right conditions, the right environment to allow the perfect movement to emerge? And in a way, to practice you. Something to chew on. Thanks so much for tuning in.